Hi guys, welcome to Bible Breakdown. We're doing Isaiah chapter 10. So for the start of this chapter, I wrote that judgment is put over the ones that are unjust to the people that are helpless. So verses 1 and 2 say, "Woe to those enacting crooked statutes and writing oppressive laws to keep the poor from getting a fair trial and to deprive the needy among my people of justice, so that widows can be their spoil and they can plunder the fatherless." Then to continue starting from verse 5, the title is called Assyria, the Instrument of Wrath. So here you will see God putting judgment over Assyria for the harm that they did to these nations. And you're probably wondering, like, didn't God instruct Assyria to attack Judah and all these other people? Well, he did, but the reason why they're in trouble is because of verse 6 and 7. So I wrote, Assyria is getting judgment from the Lord for the harm that they've done because their intentions were not the same as the Lord's. As we continue all the way to verse 14, we find out that Assyria is arrogant. So I wrote, Assyria is arrogant. They believe to have high power, and they think that by their own strength they gain victory over these nations. But in verse 12 it says, I will punish the king of Assyria for the arrogant acts and the proud look in his eyes. From verses 15 to 19, it's talking about how Assyria really shouldn't be taking credit because they're not the one that was guiding them through this. And in the sources that I used to help me with these chapters, they wrote a nice little blurb that kind of helped me put into perspective what God was talking about here. So it says here, the Lord uses the pictures of an axe, a saw, a rod, and a staff to make the point that the instruments should never take credit for what the wonders of the worker has done. So here it's important to highlight the skills are in the user, and the user here is God, because God called on Assyria to attack these other nations to teach them a lesson. But Assyria had other things in mind. So God is going to hold them accountable and make them suffer. He's going to put a disease over them and he will make them burn under fire. And this is all in verses 16 and 17 going forward. Moving on to verses 20 to 24, it's titled, The Remnant Will Return. For here, I wrote, it's a declaration of the small groups of people that still are faithful to the Lord returning to him. God will show the way that he'll be faithful and merciful to them even through their disobedience. I also wrote that the Lord instructs them to not be afraid of the storm that they're in, but to continue to trust in him. Then to end the chapter from verse 27 to 34, it's titled, God Will Judge Assyria. And for that I wrote, it's planning out the route of Assyria and declaring what will happen to them when they get to different places. It really does map out how each interaction will play out and what we should expect. So that is the end of this chapter. We will see what carries on from here. But that is all I have for you guys. That is the end of chapter 10. I will see you guys on Monday for Isaiah chapter 11. I love y'all. God loves y'all more. Have a great weekend.